Good morning and good evening. Welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. Well, I'll just say right now, I'm super excited to welcome aboard Lauren Tracy. Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you, B, very much. I know we have a lot in common, and I'm excited to dive in.
We absolutely do. We absolutely do. You're this seasoned entrepreneur, innovator, making and doing amazing things in the world. And I can't wait to kind of really jump on into this. And especially given what you're up to at the moment with regards to your latest company and your latest product, which is all around this mood ring tech and the product being mood ring. And I'm super excited to talk about it with you because it's music to my ears in terms of helping women who have experienced or on the verge or are still in or experiencing burnout and helping them to thrive. Tell us a little bit
Mhm.
about what you've been up to and what you're doing.
Yeah, well, we both have talked about this, having personal experiences with burnout. This is my second technology wellness company. And the reason why I'm doing this is because at my first company, I had a panic attack. No one knew at the time, and it was a really just something that hit me literally in my body, in my core. It quite literally stopped my brain in its tracks, and I never had to learn the skill of recharging from high stress
Mm.
until I did. Right? You just hit a certain point in adulthood, I think sometimes, and in my case, that was the situation where it hit me, and I realized I was trying to help all these young women with our first company with their well-being, and I didn't quite have a handle on this part of mine, and it led me on this personal journey to figure out how to build a method of just learning that skill of coming down from high stress, recharging, and trying to be my most joyful self. And that led us to what we're doing now, which is building smart mood rings to help women do the same thing, feel joy and energy more often, have this essentially coach at their fingertips, quite
Mm.
literally, that understands where their mind and their body is and can help them avoid burnout and live their best life.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. Gosh, it sounds like you've been on quite the journey, and I totally can relate to and know all about that high stress. And it almost becomes like a chronic stress. And you don't even notice that it's that chronic and it's building and it's building and
Yep.
it's building. And you've obviously had other companies, and have you always been in the wellness tech space? Like, or have you been in other?
No, my first, uh, I was trained as a filmmaker, actually. So I've always been obsessed with design. My dad's a graphic designer. My mom is a nurse. I kind of find myself at those two intersections now. But I've always been drawn to the emotional side of art and technology, essentially. And I think filmmaking was that for me at an earlier age. And the thing was, I was always entrepreneurial, and I found myself like seeing problems everywhere. And at some point, I got really hooked on this problem of well-being for women not having enough products and services and just language in our culture for understanding well-being in general,
Mm.
let alone if you are a woman, where we're really in a man's world, living in like a 24-hour, 7 day a week
Oh, I love
cycle. We don't have that, right? We operate very differently, and yet we've had to sort of fit into this other box. And I think it's really messing with our nervous systems. I
Mm.
say this as I'm 1 week out from giving birth to my second son. So I'm like acutely feeling this issue of being like, I'm starting a company. I'm going through this literal hormonal cycle, growing a kid inside of my body. And I'm like mad that I have to pause. And I'm mad that I can't like fully feel the motherhood thing at the same time, right? Like we
It's a
just live in
juggle.
the
It's a
world. Yeah,
it's a real
that's different
It's a
than what
real
we are.
juggle. And the reason I was asking you about your other companies was that, you sound like you've always been that high performer. I call it I'm a type A personality where I'm forever, I'm ambitious, I'm a go-getter, I'm always wanting to do the next thing and,
Yeah.
make a
Yeah.
positive impact and change in the world, right? And
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but I started to get these nudges and voices and noises, if you like, and things used to stop me in my tracks when I was super stressed or that high chronic stress. But I chose not to listen to it at times. And so I was wondering if that happened to you as in your previous company and as you came into hitting that panic attack,
Mm,
because I had
that's a
one of
great
those
question.
fundamental moments as well. And so I was wondering what
Yep.
if there was a build up to that fundamental moment of the panic attack that you had that just came from like nowhere.
Yeah, there's this thing I think you're getting at that I've learned through this process, which is a lot of stress, chronic stress, the feeling of like incongruence between yourself and like what's going on in your life and how you're behaving is is a product of not listening to yourself and feeling like you're not living your most authentic self. There were certainly parts of that with my last company. So we built a two software products. One was a chatbot that helped mostly teenage girls and women in their early 20s express whatever they were feeling, and the bot helped them move through to a next healthy step, essentially. It was like talking to a big sister, but had the knowledge of a coach or cognitive behavioral therapy like steps. And it was like we hit product market fit because we had over 400,000 text message subscribers, but we didn't have business fit. We had not figured out how to monetize it properly. And this is what led to my panic attack because we had investors and all this. And what I kind of realized at that point was we had to pivot from one product to another in order to serve those people. And along the way, I had been trained essentially by so I went through an incubator program called Techstars, an accelerator.
Mhm.
And it was really, really valuable for learning how to be a tech entrepreneur, learning how to raise money, learning how to kind of talk the talk and sell what you're doing. And at the same time, that model of venture capital is very boxy. Like kind
Oh,
of the
well.
same we were talking about just the culture we live in, right? You kind of have to talk and be a certain way, or at least I will say that's what was being taught. And being the high performing good student that I was, it was like maybe I took that on a little too hard. And at the same time, inside was like pretty mad about it, going like something feels off. I don't feel like I'm quite being my full self. I can tell that the path we're going down felt wrong, but I didn't necessarily have the business skills and knowledge to figure out how to bridge that gap. So like ultimately now I'm looking back going, okay, second time technology wellness founder, thinking about how do I make sure that our business and me as the founder and my values and how I want to operate are aligned with our investors, whoever we're taking capital from. And so that's why this time around I'm doing more bootstrapping. I'm doing more proving the actual business side of the business out really early rather than like grow high growth startup, figure it out later, which is kind of the narrative
Which
at the
is where
time.
also the stress can come from as well, right? Like you're talking about here, and obviously about to be a second time mum again, which is quite
Mm-hmm.
incredible. And you've got the juggle of, I want to be fully hearted in, Bubby world and child world, but then I've got this other baby, which is my business, which is how I relate to it, right? But
Yep.
you're looking at it in a way now that is, well, how do I do it more sustainably? Because that high
Yep.
stress.
For myself and for the business.
That's exactly right. And I
Yeah.
totally relate to that again as well, because you can't, like you say, like if you keep just like chasing and, trying to fit into that square box, it's like, I don't
Yep.
know, within there's something not right, but you're also like, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to do it. I'm going to like,
Yes.
and it's that whole, like, I
You're
feel
like
like we're
reading
very
my mind from a bunch of years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So how, and I mean, quite incredible that you're bootstrapping it now and doing it, let's just say the right way and your way, which is obviously so that you can ensure that you're protecting yourself from that burnout and thriving, inside out, if you like.
Yeah.
Tell us about Mood Ring Tech and the product because it sounds. I've already signed up to, I've registered for your product. I know it's not coming out for a little while yet, but I love rings. Can you tell? Like I've got that with
Yeah, I'm so
rings.
excited. Make some room on those fingers.
So tell us about
Yeah,
that.
I'll tell you some more about it. So basically, I came to this because I had the problem, right? I am the core user, as you are. And I was going, okay, I tried all of these things while I was going through my recovery from burnout journey, figuring out what works for me. And I really did figure out a method, but it was like years of going, oh, I'll try therapy, I'll try coaching, I'll try meditation, I'll try this, I'll try that. They were all kind of softer things until I was like, well, my sleep has always been kind of wonky. Like I get a little bit anxious at night, which was like a thing I had to learn why I stayed up late. I just thought it was something I got from my dad.
Yeah.
And
What was your
turns out,
average? Just out of curiosity, how many hours and like this is not a sleeping badge honor, but like I was averaging 3 to 4 and thinking that was pretty normal.
Ooh. Yeah, no, definitely I would average more than that, but my issue was I would never have a consistent sleep. So it would
Same.
be like
Mm,
I'd go to bed at midnight, then at 3, then at 11:30, then at 4. Like it was so I was so there was no rhythm for
mm,
me.
mm,
And so what I learned was when the Oura Ring came out, they were like, "We are for sleep," right? And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna try that." I'm not really a wearables person. I am a tech and design person, but I'm never super got into wearables for a number of reasons. Even though I was a college athlete, I still was like not driven by tracking my body and stuff.
mm.
So that kind of freaked me out a little. And I also like you didn't like the notifications always coming with the first generation of wearables. That was really a thing. And so I was like, my thing is I need to disconnect. So I got the Aura Ring and it really helped me realize some very critical things about what was going on with my mind and body. And the main thing was because I wasn't going to bed at a consistent time each night, what was happening is that I wasn't hitting REM sleep. And by not hitting REM sleep,
Neither.
and I was like, oh, I haven't had dreams since I was a kid, you know? Turns out there was a reason for that because I wasn't hitting REM. So I'm not, my memories aren't like getting banked the proper way. I'm not having the most critical 4 hour period of sleep
Mm,
in the beginning of the night that is going to help you cope with stress. I had to always set an alarm and I would wake up super angry since I was a teenager. Like I would just wake up pissed, and I'm generally a pretty happy person,
all
so that
right.
was always very strange for me. And when I started using the Aura Ring, I fixed that particular part of my well-being. It totally changed my mood. I stopped setting an alarm every morning, only as like an emergency if I slept
Mm,
through. I woke up totally fine. I was like myself again. It was wild.
mm.
So I was like, okay, that was really interesting. I just used biometrics to help my mood. And then I was tracking my period and doing other things with it before they really had that feature. So I was kind of trying to hack like what I could learn from it. And I was just like, okay, we can combine this softer coaching science that we're doing with software, and we can put that together with something beautiful that's on women's hands all the time, but it's there for a totally different purpose.
Mm.
And so I really was like, all right, we're designing this for people who, one, have the issue of I don't want to buy any wearables because we don't like what they look like. That is hands down actually the number one issue.
Yeah, it's
So,
interesting you say that because I've always I've
yeah.
never found like an Apple Watch anything that I've loved from a design perspective, but it's more just been the notifications because it triggers me in
Hmm.
a way, like just the thought of having that on my arm or just
Yep.
my obsession with, the extremity of, oh, okay, I've got a message or I've got something, I better respond to that.
I have to.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm.
Yeah. So you're getting at kind of the second issue, which is right behind the first one of design. The second issue is there's really kind of two people in the world who are interested in wearables and their well-being and health. This is obviously an overgeneralization, but let's just say it's true for a second. You got people who are drawn to and enjoy and are driven by tracking their numbers, their body, seeing those numbers, and then going, ooh, I'm going to figure out what to do from here for myself. Then there's another group of people that women largely fall into from the research that we've done, where they go, how do I feel? And then do everything from that. So their physical health, their mental well-being, their day-to-day life, their do they like their job, are they anything just comes from that feeling of how do I feel? Now what? Now what do I do with that information? What's my next step? And so when I realized that we could combine the softer coaching part of this with biometrics that can support that, I was like, all right, this is really interesting, and have something at literally we're wearing on our bodies as an extension of us that we want to wear.
Yeah, it's like an
We're gonna work
identity.
on ourselves.
Yeah. And is
What
that
you said?
oh, it's like an identity thing, right? Like for me,
Exactly.
as soon as when I went in and looked at what you're doing, I was like, oh, like it kind of the design and that kind of it drew me in, and the way you were talking around the feeling and the joy. Is that
Mhm.
intuition piece that you've talked around as well in terms of intuition and data tech and how you bring the two
Mhm.
together?
Yes. So I've had a lot of so this is goes back to the question you asked me earlier about like the incongruence between yourself and what's going on and having you hit burnout because of that. I realized that if I just listened to my gut feelings more often and acted on them, that's the important part, not just heard them and did nothing,
Yeah.
but and acted on them, I was way less likely to be stressed out. It's way less likely to hit burnout. I felt like I could make decisions faster and easier, but trusting myself was difficult because intuition isn't always something that you can like prove to somebody else, right? But the real thing is your brain, my brain, your brain, everyone's brain, some people are better at it than others, we have really good data processing in the back of our minds, in our unconscious brain.
Yeah.
We have supercomputers in our minds. We aren't necessarily conscious of why it's making the decisions that it is, or of what those patterns are until we have that gut feeling, or we feel yes or no, this feels right or wrong, or we have a mood reaction to something. And the reality is, I think most of the time, if people listen to that, they would just be happier and be making better decisions for themselves and their family and their business. But we've been taught for so long to listen to the conscious brain and to logic and the ability to prove something. And all of that is really important, but we've like swung the pendulum a little bit too far.
So,
And so I'm hoping that what we can do with this is say, let's just listen to those signals in your body. We're going to start with the positive ones because it's a little bit more fun. If you are listening to your stress a little too hard, it can become stressful.
mm,
So eventually, we're going to work on helping people with all of their moods, but we're starting with the mood of joy because it is kind of most deeply connected to your intuition in terms of what's right for you.
mm.
And so the first version of this, we're essentially having people interact with the ring, a tap, a rub, a spin. We're kind of deciding with our tech team exactly what motion it is. But as you feel any kind of even little bit of joy or good vibes in your life, even if it's tiny throughout your day, you interact with the ring. You basically just logged your emotion. And then we coach you. So you like unlock it every 3 days or so, essentially guidance to figure out why you're having those emotions, what's causing it, and being able to schedule that kind of thing more often. And then what
Love
we'll do,
that.
if we're successful with that, yeah, so they're very excited about that. And then if we're successful with that, then we'll layer in biometrics that make that whole process easier so we can understand, well, was your mental intensity and your body's intensity level high or low or in between while you were going through these moods? And that can help us, quickly make decisions better with that coach on your
Oh
finger.
my God, that sounds incredible because like when you're in the thick of it, you forget about the little moments of joy, right? And it's kind of in those joyful moments. And it might be that that's when you can be your most creative. That's when you can be your most, I guess high performing. I talk around
Yeah.
this oscillation between survival mode when you're fully stressed out of your head and, you're
Hmm.
hustling versus when you're in that optimally thriving mode. When you're more intuitive, you're more creative, you're more innovative. You feel
Yep.
like you're not stuck in that box and you're able to kind of, for me, be formless. That's that kind of shaping, reshaping.
Yeah.
So I love that you're bringing this into a wearable tech that actually starts with the positive in terms of, well, let's focus on what you're feeling right now in a positive way because we're just being so ingrained also to be like, are you stressed? Are you this? Are you that?
Yep.
And the minute
Yep.
you start to think, well, I am stressed. Oh my gosh, like, am I going to get sick or is something going to happen to me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so, so true. I mean, I think a lot of the number stuff is if you're trying to figure out what your resilience or your stress score is out of 100 or your sleep score is out of 100, right? You're always like trying to get to the perfect number, or you're seeing that dip when something happens. And depending on how you're doing that day or what type of person you are, that may not be useful. It may be detrimental to you. And a lot of people complain about that. I mean, you talk about flow, right? We have science that I think we just haven't really listened to too hard yet, but essentially the science of joy is basically that you can tap into your joy more often and noticing it because we're not wired to do that because we're wired for the stress because that was helpful for survival. Once upon a time, not so much anymore, just
No,
in our current society. We're not running from animals
no, no,
anymore,
no,
right?
exactly.
So, and we have to like realize that. And so if we can shift our focus more to joy, it's proven that you can both feel happier, feel better, feel more energetic, be more recharged and cope with stress. So it's like that one mood focus kills two birds with one stone. And there are certainly places where we need to go like, all right, I'm hitting chronic stress for a very particular reason. I need to solve that problem and we'll get there, we aim to get there. And the method that I go through like really has that component in it. But we have to get kind of one thing right at a time. So we wanted to start with the thing that is both the most fun and theoretically the most effective.
So have you actually got a ring as yet? Like, have you actually got people wearing and testing this product out yet, or are you still in, development mode of?
Not yet. So we have the process we're in right now is our prototype app is being built, and we are in the process of finding the right ring to partner with to start with. So we were originally going to actually build our own ring from the ground up, but then we realized there are companies out there that have things that kind of look like a gold aura ring, or they might be white, that kind of thing, something that's a little bit more feminine, but not quite the designs we want eventually. And it's a good place to start because it already has the sensors in it that we need. And we can use that and attach that to our app to prove out that people do want this user experience. And we can train people to actually notice their joy more often and it's useful to them. So that's the whole like bootstrapping. We're trying to go, okay, let's save millions of dollars in developing our own technology because maybe we're wrong. Let's use someone else's and prove it out along the way. And I'm hoping to by the end of my maternity leave in like 3, 4 months that we're going to be able to come out with that first prototype and put it on somewhere between like 20 and 50 people's hands on our wait list. Hopefully, maybe you.
Yeah, how amazing. And yeah, I mean, like for someone, who's had like the severity of the burnout I had, we were just quickly talking before, I have to watch it. Like I still have to watch it. And,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
it's just this handbrake. And, I had to learn how to get my REM sleep. My doctor and like worked with me hard on it. I tried all the things as well, the therapy, the coaching and all of that. And lots of it worked. But the bit that you have to continuously work on is it's like having something a chronic I wouldn't say illness, but it's just always there now. And like, I think once you've had burnout, and I think this is the bit that we don't hear a lot about and people don't talk a lot about it, because if you are a high performer and you've performed at a level which is just a level that is like, I don't know about you, but I've had people in the past who say to me, I don't know how you do it, B. You're just like, you can, and I used to think it wasn't like a badge of honor. Like, yeah, I can do anything, I can do everything. But that was just me running with my, nervous system running up here. It wasn't where it should have been.
Yep. Yep.
So now it's just like for me, like the thought of having a mood ring that reminds me of, or like, the joy, etc., to bring me back to where I need to get back to, because it's this constant reminder of I can't perform at that level. It's not
Yeah.
sustainable and it shouldn't be a badge of honor. And that is not normal. What is normal is, embracing those moments of joy, like taking my puppy for a walk,
Yep.
accessing flow state when I get my ideas for my business, it's all of that. And yet it's still every day for me
100%.
a struggle because I have to watch when I'm pushing myself or I'm doing too much because I just get a whack down again and it's like,
Hmm. I relate to this so much. I mean, I was emailing you the other day and I was like, oh, I'm staying up too late. And I find myself before this baby's coming being like, you have to get everything in, you have to get everything in. And I'm like not in my natural joy flow state right now as easily as I was maybe a few months ago. And I've worked very hard on this too. And as have you, right? Life changes, things happen. Like there's external stressors, there's internal desires to perform, be a certain way, whatever it may be. And like even today, so last night I stayed up way too late working on copy for this for this prototype app because I was like, I have to hand it to my developer this morning because I might give birth tomorrow. Who knows? And it totally wiped me out this morning. And I had to have a meeting where I was handing it over, and then another meeting where I was handing it over. And I was like, I don't think I've drank enough water today, right? And I know these things that I'm supposed to be doing. And yet, and then so I was like, all right, this is a problem.
I'm out.
Second half of the day, time out, drink your water, eat your food, don't do work for like an hour, try to reset yourself. And then I consciously was like, all right, well, I got this podcast tonight. It's going to be like, close to my bedtime when I'm recording it. I need to make sure that I feel present for that and that I actually go to bed afterwards and I'm not too wound up. And so I was like, I know one of the things that I can do, and it is hanging out with my 2-year-old son.
Yeah.
So I took a few hours to just hang out with him and turn my brain off. And I went from literally like a complete brain fog day, and in the middle of the day, turned it totally around.
Mm.
And like, if we know ourselves well enough because we've listened to these signals with the help of a guide, oftentimes we need then we can do that for ourselves. We can actually shift our schedules and learn how to bring our nervous systems back to where they need to be. Now, do I need to get better sleep today? And am I going to still feel tired tomorrow? Probably. But like, I'm at least proud of myself that I prioritize that joy and that recharging so that I feel like I can get up tomorrow and keep going and not be going in the wrong direction.
And I love that because it's a non-negotiable, right? Like what you're saying and what you're, putting out there and, with your mood ring tech and the actual mood ring is that joy is a non-negotiable. It's like for me, active recovery, it's a non-negotiable. Like if we are
Mhm.
having moments of joy day in, day out, I mean, we can't be at bliss all the time, every day of the week, sort of thing. But if we're not finding those little moments of joy, there's something is wrong. Something isn't
Mhm.
and
What's the point?
what's the point? And it's only that I realized and I am going to let you go because I know it is late, but it was only I realized when
I
I,
am very much enjoying this, and this is energizing me, to be clear.
yeah, yeah, good, 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 good. That I realized it was 3 years ago when I finished in the last company that I scaled to 20 plus million, but I
Amazing.
realized that there was not a lot of joy going on for me whatsoever at that point in time. And now I look and I'm like, I really notice when I'm not feeling joy at all. Like, and that's for me a sign of, okay, something's like,
Yep.
you know. So again, but
Hmm.
just to have something that I can touch, like that's the other thing, the sensory of touch, feel, like I'm always kind of, moving my rings around. So like I love the idea of
Yep.
just this,
Good.
this gorgeous.
You should. I would actually really love you to test this first version
Yeah, I would love to test it. Like, I mean, absolutely. I'm here in Australia. I'll be just going to everyone because I'm constantly,
then.
people are always commenting on my rings. But two last questions for you, Lauren. Bootstrapping. It's not easy when you're putting it all, like I'm bootstrapping as well. It's not an easy. What do you love the most about bootstrapping compared to your last business
Hmm.
that you had?
Well, ask me that question again in a year to see how successful I've been with it. But so far, what it feels like is it's making it easier for me to make decisions that are more aligned with me as an entrepreneur and how I like to function and how I do function best, as well as aligning it with our future goals. So, what I mean by that is, um, with taking venture capital comes the expectation of high growth at a certain pace to pay back the investors of my investors. There's like two layers of bosses there, right? That I have no connection to whatsoever. And their business model is we need one in every 10 companies to be successful, and the other nine can kind of
Whatever.
disappear, right? And I'm going, we are an impact business. So if we disappear, we have not done our job.
No.
So it's fundamentally not aligned, right? Like I would much rather build this thing to make its own money. Sure, I'm going to need some upfront capital and we're going to need to supplement along the way. Absolutely. It's a hardware business.
Yeah, 100%.
That's my first time doing that. And but I have to put the well-being impact of our customers before the return of my investors. It's a fact. And if I don't find investors who understand that fundamentally, then we're just going to have a problem because we're not aligned, right?
Mm,
And so I think the real thing is with bootstrapping, I get to go, that's the decision I've made, get on board or not, right?
mm,
And it makes getting investors a little harder. Maybe it's going to take a little longer, but I get to go, okay, what are all the creative ways? And I also like to solve problems and I love the 0 to 1 phase. So this part is like very fun for my brain too, of going, I only have X amount of dollars to play with right now, right? And how much traction can I get? How many people can I impact? And will they pay me money for me to help them do that?
mm,
Then I can start to, open up and go, I've actually proved some of this out instead of, and I also like selling. Like I like saying, here's my big vision and this is what we're going to do
mm,
eventually. And this can make you a lot of money. I believe it. But I did that the first time and it didn't work out from a business perspective. I did get investment, but that part of it for me was like, okay, I can sell a dream while also proving the dream along the way,
mm.
as opposed to selling the dream and not being able to deliver. That also felt very bad. Like I want, I want to be able to pay back the investors. So the pressure of that, I think for me personally is a little too high. I mean, you may have noticed that like I'm driven by my emotions, right? This
Aren't
is
we
what
all?
I'm
I am
doing.
too. I wear the hat on my sleeve. Like I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like if I feel like, oh shoot, the direction I'm going doesn't align with them and I can feel that, like that doesn't feel like a win-win relationship I'm building. Then I just feel like I'm like suddenly lying to people. So that feels really off. And so this time around, I think I've just been able to align that better from the beginning. Now I will say I am at this kind of point in the road where I have to go, all right, I'm running out of capital that I have to put in this company. And I need to start making some money from people, but I know with this business, I'm not going to be able to be profitable right away. Will I be profitable maybe sooner than a lot of other hardware companies? I think so because of the way we're trying to do this and the way we're bootstrapping. But I'm still going to need some capital from the outside, crowdfunding probably plus investors.
Mm.
So I'm gonna have to start making some harder decisions soon and like facing that head on. But trying to work within a system that works a certain way, but be as true to what we're trying to do and to myself as possible is going to be like a constant balance.
I love that though that it sounds like to me that you've learned so much from what you've done previously, and then the bootstrapping has allowed you to almost shape it, reshape it in a way that you feel confident,
Mhm.
and now you're at that next stage of, all right, well then how do we collaborate and who do we collaborate with, and ensuring that, you have the same values and the same integrity to take your business
Yep.
to the next stage. So it feels like, you've got more. Well, you've been able to control the destiny a little bit more, right? Like in terms of how
Yeah.
you're doing it the way, and it's like that soulful, intuitive led leadership is what I call it. What I'm hearing from you in terms of, does this feel right? I need to follow my gut here or my intuition. But now I
Yeah.
also need to look at, okay, who can I bring in from a collaborative partner sense? Let's call it that. You're very brave, Lauren. You're super brave doing, and I love it. And I love this being your real and your raw and, honest, like about to have your second baby, you've got this other baby. It's just like, how do you juggle it all? Like so what would be your one, yeah, what's your biggest ambition with your mood ring in terms of what would you like it to do for women for the future?
Yeah. Um, so it wasn't always a ring. Like the idea was, okay, I think we can put something beautiful on women. What are they going to wear? And I ended up choosing ring first, a smart ring, for a number of reasons. But the reality is, women already wear all kinds of jewelry. And we can get biometric signals from earlobes. We can get biometric signals from wrists, from chests, from fingers. And um, I think the real ultimate goal here would be the way that I think that we can help people deeply, plus a lot of people, is if we hyper focus on being this wellness technology company that leads in coaching for emotional and mental well-being through technology, through physical technology, and have it be all kinds of jewelry. Those two things combined solve like the top two problems for this group that I'm talking about. And I mean, I estimate that there are about 1 billion women in the world right now who are chronically stressed,
Mm,
probably actually burnt out, a lot of them. And this is based on in the US alone, there are 40 million women who literally self-diagnose and say that they have stress levels, average stress levels between an 8 and a 10 out of 10.
mm,
That's chronic stress. That's what we're talking about here.
mm.
That's like what you and I had, right?
Yeah.
Have hit, are always trying to balance. And it took me, and I would imagine you, kind of years to figure out how to avoid that.
Yeah, I'm still doing it.
There
Like,
are not a lot of people who have
yeah,
the time, money, obsession to do that for
no,
themselves, right?
yeah. Yeah,
It's a real,
I'm 3 years post burnout, and they say it takes, my doctor said at the time, it's be 2 to 3 years before you fully recover. But the
yep,
reminder of that handbrake, and it's for
yep.
me, it's just something I'm learning to live with now, that it will not go away. And if I do have that chronic stress or build up, it's going to hit me like a ton of bricks. So it's now managing it. It's now finding those moments of joy, like you said. Oh my goodness, we could keep talking and talking, and I feel like once you have, I feel like we probably will. I'd love to get you back on in the next 6 months or so, and do a little demo and show us.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
That would be, or whenever you're ready.
Yep.
Where can we find out more about you? Knowing that I know you're about to take mat leave, but I can't imagine you'll be off social too much. But where do we
You
find out
better
more
believe
about
I'm going to be chopping this up and putting it on social media while I'm gone. Um, so you can find out about me on Instagram at It's Lauren Tracy. You can follow us, both the website and the social media is moodring.tech.
you?
And you can also sign up there to be one of the people that buys our first product, to be prototypers, whatever you want there. And you can always also email me if you have questions or thoughts. I'm very much like, I love talking to all the customers. I've talked to hundreds of people who are interested in this so far. So I'm very much involved in that. My email is just lauren@moodring.tech. So any of those ways.
Oh, awesome. And I can't wait to, yeah, I think I actually mentioned it to someone I was talking to the other day, here in Australia, because it just feels like something that, is
Wonderful.
it's obviously a global product. But thank you so much, Lauren. And I'm wishing you all the
Thank
best with your Bubba number two that is imminent
you.
now. And yeah, thank you so much. Go get that REM
Thank
sleep.
you. This is a lovely conversation and very energizing for me. So I think this will be a good sign off before I go to sleep. It will help me.
Thanks, Lauren.